Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Never Mind the Buy Box. If everyone can just give us a quick hello, quick holler. How are you, Luke?
Good.
Good.
The reason that's funny is because, like, I noticed it on. I know we're going to go off, but I noticed it on like the news here. They're like, "Oh, hello." And I'm like, "You've just spoken to each other for like 2 hours before. Why are you fucking about?" It's kind of how I think about it.
Sorry, I do apologise for the bad language, everyone, from Mr. Dugan.
I get really like upset actually sometimes, like because it kind of feels like it's not natural, and I quite disagree with that feeling. So anyway.
Okay. Hi, Ruth. Hi, Jamie. Hi, Daphne. Hi, Tim. We'll just wait for a few more people to jump on. Let us know in the comments if you can see and hear us all right. Apologies. I'm going to have to give a Big Brother style swearing warning. Please do not swear, Luke. You are live. I know it's only a joke.
It's after 9 o'clock here, so sometimes I think you have to be like a. Like after 9 o'clock, you're allowed to swear or something in TV in the UK.
9 o'clock, I think, is the watershed.
Yeah, so here it's 9. Like I think, oh yeah, it's late.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You're past 9 o'clock. So yeah, technically you are past the watershed. Absolutely. Swear as much as you want then. Hi, Craig. Hi, Simon. Hi, Bob. Sean says sales picking up, but still slow. Anyone else the same? Yeah, let us know. Let me know. Thanks, Ruth, for letting us know that you can see and hear us okay. Let us know in the comments, how are those sales? I feel everybody's been on a little bit of a downer this past week. I had to get my strict kind of headmistress head on and deliver a bit of a post over the weekend. Just kind of, hopefully it wasn't designed to tell anyone off, or it wasn't designed to, sort of like, I don't know, berate anyone or anything like that. It was just more a case of, look, I can see that I've been in the game for too long. I've been around Facebook groups for too long. I can see the pattern. There's always this pattern where you see people slowly starting to slip into the negative, and then it just becomes this tidal wave of, negative thoughts and negative actions and things like that. So I just wanted to help maybe turn the tide of that a little bit, get people back on track, and just remind people that at the end of the day, this is the second slowest month of the year. It's a shorter sales period than every other month in the year. We're coming out of lockdown. People are getting more confident in terms of going out to the shops and all these different types of things. And, on top of that as well, it's how you operate on your business. This is naturally going to be a slower period of time for sales. So Luke and I talk about this a lot. You can't look at every single month the same. You can't look at every single day the same and say, right, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to base all of my hopes and dreams on, if I don't hit my sales target today. Think longer term, think bigger term. Don't even think monthly. Luke, when it comes to your sales figures, you think more quarterly and yearly, how you look at it.
I don't look at it quarterly anymore.
No, so it's more
even Q1, I know is never going to be, well, the only way I can never have a good Q1 is if I'm already preparing in like October, but then I'm going to be not prioritizing. So yeah, so for me, like, I won't even be probably in stock to the level I want to be until at least the end of this month. Then depending on like how quick people can get things in, it may even push into April. So, but I see as Q1 is going to be like half as good as I ever could if I was in stock, just in stock on everything. Yeah. It's just having, to get 20,000 off, and that's not even selling. So to have 20,000 suddenly in 1st of Jan, all new stock for the new year, prioritizing specific products lines, is not, that doesn't just happen in a second. So it's like, yeah, it's for me, I don't mind. I don't get worried about it, and I don't get upset, or I don't, because it's already something I know it's going to happen. But I'm already thinking, I'm already planning next year. Kind of like I already know it's because it's the same motions. It's just like it's almost the same input from me. The data and the knowledge is guiding me just to improve everything. So but again, it takes a long time to get to stock levels. That's the thing. And I think I see that Johnny's on here as well, and he was he was saying that he had I don't quite have as long as him. I think he said like 3 or 4 months lead time to get, or 3 or 4 months from buying to in. I'll probably have max 2, but I do split against 3 prep centers. Like I kind of not 2 prep centers and 1 warehouse that I'm basically paying for a full-time staff member. But I want to try to obviously move that to everything. But yeah, that's probably why I'm able to do it a little bit faster at the moment. But yeah.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. Yeah, guys, don't let the February Amazon emotional roller coaster bring you down. Think bigger picture, think longer term. And before we know it, we'll all be back in Q4 again. I think that's the best way to look at it. Evening, Darren. Evening, Robert. Hi, Amanda. Johnny's joined us. Evening. David says sales are booming. Well, great job. For some people, February has just been absolutely phenomenal. I was speaking to one of our regular contributors, I hope you won't mind me saying, David Breaker, the other day, and he's had one of the best months he's ever had in February, and it's one of the, so well done to him. And I think it's all about a case of we've got so used to these big boomy kind of months. Don't get me wrong. I think overall with Amazon, I think that we've gone to a level that we won't come down from. But in reality, as the weather gets warmer, as we come out of lockdown, as more people get vaccines, these are all contributing factors. So you need to start thinking a little bit longer term. We might not see the level of sales velocity, might see a little bit of increased competition with people coming out and going back into RA. But at the same time, that might, for the hardcore RA crew, that might take a little bit of competition off the OA side of things. So it's all about swings and roundabouts. Rest of the year, brilliant opportunity, obviously, for anyone that wants to smash it up and still sell on Amazon. But we've got tonight a few things to talk about. Wanted to talk about in particular. It's always good for Never Mind the Buy Box, because it always used to seem to be that Amazon kind of released their news and their updates and things like that on a Tuesday, which was always very good for us because it gave us the opportunity to talk about them. And I know there's been a few things lately that a lot of people have been, a little bit worried about. So I wanted to talk about sales briefly, which we've done. But I didn't want to focus too much on that because I know there's been some Amazon updates and some changes. And the more we get into Brexit, the more we uncover Brexit with what's going to happen and what isn't going to happen, the more things like this are going to come up and the more things that Amazon introduce. And this has always been the goal of Never Mind the Buy Box, to keep you updated with all of the Amazon changes, policy changes, trends, all these different types of things. But Amazon, even by their own standards, seems to have released a lot in the last week or so. So we've got a lot to talk about, which is good. So firstly, before we get started, just want to check, obviously, any questions that you want to ask Luke or I as we go along, feel free to drop them in the comments. Hi, Amy. Hi, Simon. Just seeing who else has joined us. Michelle says my February was the same as December and January was only a little less than November. So keep on building. Absolutely. Sean says he's doing a bit of RA today and at Burger King watching you live. Oh my God, can you imagine the random people in Burger King thinking, what on earth are they going on about? I hope you've got headphones on.
I think he's going to be in his van. He's usually eating in it. Like I'm one of those.
I'm in restaurants at the moment. There's me calling Burger King a restaurant. That's a bit of a stretch for a restaurant, isn't it? It's not like a fine dining restaurant or anything. Okay, well, hopefully. Well, it's good. It's good that you're enjoying your Burger King meal and joining us 100%. Hayden says, evening legends. Evening legends yourself. Hi, Paulina. Hi, Cindy. Well, the first thing I want to talk about tonight is the UPS glitch that's been driving everybody wild for the last couple of days. So first of all, we had the glitch within the UPS partner carrier service within Seller Central, where it was charging ridiculous amounts of money. And when I first saw it come through, My first responses were to people, okay, it's volumetric weight, just check your dimensions. If it's over, 41 or something on its longest side or something like that, check your dimensions. Your box is too big. That's why you're being charged that amount, because that's how UPS charges on volumetric weight. So it's not necessarily the weight of the box, it's the volume of the box. I'm not very good at maths. So it's the actual space within the box. But then we realized afterwards, obviously, that it was a glitch. And it was to do with the decimal point, to do with the kilo weight. So you were having to round up or round down. That went on for a couple of days. So it was a little bit of fun and games. And then when I finally posted about it, it got fixed, which was fine. So that's fixed. But then I think what happened, because Amazon Seller Central produces the UPS labels and produces the tracking numbers, for some reason, it was sending the system haywire that these, I suppose, wrongly identified, more expensive shipments were producing, I don't know, higher price shipping or something. When those tracking numbers were being put into ups.com to book the bookings in, it was charging, which is what's happened today. But now I know you mainly use pallets, so Luke, this is probably a bit like,
I sent one box today.
Yeah, you sent one box today, but it was charging people like £5.4 for a standard collection. So I hope nobody's paid it. So this is a big shout out, because as far as I'm aware, the glitch is still in existence. So fixed on the Amazon side, but not fixed on the ups.com side. So a really quick workaround, which I suggested this morning, which seems to be working for most people, is grab a previous UPS tracking number from a previous shipment and just use that to book the UPS collection in. And but it has to be pre the glitch that's happened over the last 3 or 4 days, something like that. And then what will happen is that will kind of zero out, and you will be able to use that as a prepaid service. So fingers crossed. I think for most people that's fixed the issue. But just to reassure people, you don't have to worry about that you're using an old number or anything like that. Just a quick example, when we used to do them at the prep center, we used to just put the same number in over and over and over again, because it was saved there and it was just easy to do. I don't think anyone actually books in, every single UPS tracking number. Certainly we don't anyway. So don't worry about using an old one.
Yeah. Well, I did today, actually. I booked, maybe it was fine this morning, but first thing today, I added, it was like one that's been there for weeks, and I was like, hang on, why is this? And I realized it was some box that they just sort of had sat somewhere. And then I obviously quickly grabbed the label, but it was fine. But I didn't do the collection part, they do it. So, but the price and everything was fine. And the sizes of the box were like 60 by, I put 59 just on purpose, but 59, 40, 30. And then, I don't know what because I think you just said something about 40 a minute ago. So I'm like, what was that about?
I think the optimal size, but I could be wrong, because I don't prep any boxes because I'm not allowed, because I muck it up. I think the optimal size is like, it's 47, 47, 47, isn't it? 41, 41, 40. I made a video about it on YouTube. If anyone wants it, let me know. It's the optimal box size. Actually, if Matt Cromie's watching, if my Matt's watching, he knows like the optimal size that you can max out before being charged the additional rates that UPS charge for volumetric, when it goes on the large side. But the other thing I wanted to let people know about, there's probably not a lot that you can do about it. I haven't heard any horror stories as yet, but if you are someone that allows your prep center to create your shipments for you, just go back and check what you've been charged over the last couple of days, purely because I'm pretty sure any prep center worth its salt would have picked up that the charges should have, are looking a lot higher than they should be normally. But just go back and double check those, because the shorter the amount of time that you challenge Amazon, the more chance you would have if you've accepted those charges of getting it back. I think once you accept the charges, it will probably be hard to get those charges back off of Amazon, but Amazon did acknowledge that it was a big glitch. So fingers crossed, if you do go back and you see that the charges have been accepted, don't just accept it. Please, please raise a case with Seller Central. It would definitely be worth doing. But like I said, any prep center worth their salt should have picked that up anyway. So fingers crossed no one's been charged like £400 for shipping or anything for like 3 boxes.
That's why she needs the pallets. But of course you can't do it unless you put on, I don't know, I guess you could probably put on maybe 8 to 10 boxes a pallet. Do you know what maybe you don't remember? I'm just trying to think what the sort of normal size boxes would be for a pallet. How many it would be for a pallet? I don't think it's that much.
No, I'm not sure. Yeah, like I said, I'm not allowed to touch the package because Matt will tell you how many incidences where this is on our own personal shipments where I sent it to the wrong place, put the wrong label on it, just not allowed to touch the boxes in any way, shape, or form. So Matt says 60 by 60 is good, which was completely different to what I said. So there we go. Someone said, I can't see whose comment it is, but someone said it worked for them today. And, you know, that kind of work around that hack. So just keep an eye on it. I'd imagine it's something that they're going to sort out pretty, you know, quickly at the end of the day. So, oh, yes, Matt always says with the boxes, this is a really good tip, actually, when it comes to shipping stuff in, always allow for bulges. Because we all know when it comes to UPS and boxes get thrown about, they get put on. So don't ever take the box dimensions up to the maximum amount, because if it gets squished during transport and then it gets cuboid measured, just making up words tonight, if it gets like put through the Amazon cuboid system and it goes over the dimensions, then you could get a policy shipping warning. So always give yourself a few centimeters here and there. Sounds really dodgy.
Sounds good. Yeah. No, I've actually had a couple. Well, I used to get some those shipment warnings a lot actually, but these days I haven't. But I have noticed on some I mean, not loads, but some, they have been quite specific on like it's apparently just been over on this or that or whatever, and it's like I'm not the one doing it, and I'm like, cause that's why it gets a bit frustrating obviously when you're out like to a prep center or whatever, but it's just they're obviously being, and I'm like, are you sure? And they're like, and it's literally just like the tiniest point something over, or and you're obviously getting photos of like them sort of doing whatever they do when they book in the boxes. It's like, yeah, they are in recent months for me, they've been a bit more on it with that side of things than before.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Amazon go through little fits and starts with the policy warnings. It's like this cycle. And a couple of things I want to talk about actually, and it's linked to what we'll talk about in a moment, which is the scary email that Amazon sent out earlier about the new EU directive for the responsible person for CE markings for selling products in the UK and the EU. And it's kind of linked in with that a little bit. Just before I move on, Ruth says Cubiscan, that's what it's called. I personally prefer the name cuboid or cubizoid. I think that sounds much better. That's what I would have called it. But yeah, it's the Cubiscan. Hi, Fran. So Amazon go through these cycles of change where they have fits and starts with things. I think sometimes they're really hot on like, you didn't polybag your stuff. Sometimes they're really hot on, oh, okay, your box dimensions are too big. Sometimes they're really hot on picking up barcodes in the cubizoid scan. So, you know, all of these different types of things. I don't know, and it would be really interesting if anyone does have any insider insight into this. I don't know if Amazon goes through a cycle of telling people what to, you know, focus on at certain points of the year or something like that. Because what I also wanted to say, and I'm really interested to hear people's thoughts on this as well. has everybody's declaration of conformity requests or compliance policy requests stopped for toys at the moment? I'd be interested to hear the people that still are selling and listing toys, whether or not they are getting new declaration of conformity or policy compliance requests from Amazon within about 3 to 5 days of listing that product for sale. Now, I know that a lot of people are not selling toys as much, and there's no point asking you, Luke, obviously, because I know you don't really sell toys. So it would be really interesting, because something we've noticed and talking to other sellers and people, especially on the higher level side of things, and I've had this conversation about 2 or 3 times this week, that people seem to be saying that they are listing new products, and those new products are not getting as many declaration of conformity requests. Now, I seem to remember a year ago, or whenever it was, when these first policy compliance requests came through, that they badgered on about them for a period of time, and then they stopped until the request that we got this time round. So I'm not saying it's gone forever, but definitely not saying it's gone forever, and especially looking at some of the comments, I don't know if it's kind of one of these things that Amazon just doing a fit and a start. So it's just going to be like, oh, okay, let's send out the random declaration of conformity, requests or something like that. See what everyone says. I know it's difficult because obviously, Luke, I know you don't really sell toys, so can't really.
No. I mean, I still have some Playmobil in my inventory. If that.
Still got those Playmobil?
No. As in like in the so I meant to probably would be they're in the catalog. I guess that is in the inventory. It's just I haven't got any in stock. But I like to keep it in there just for later date.
For some reason, my phone's not picking up the comments, and so I can't tell who's asking these comments, I'm afraid, guys, so I can't read out your name. But someone says I got one 2 weeks ago after listing a new toy. Tez said, sent one in as a test, had no DOC and sold all 3 of them. Brilliant. I've listed toys from clearance section today. Tez says, last one this week. You can send documents in after the date and it reactivates them. Okay, that's quite interesting. Sorry, I don't know who's commenting, so I haven't got the names coming up on my phone for some reason. Whoever this is, again, said it stopped. I've got a funny feeling this might be Phil, actually, because sometimes I can't pick up Phil's comments for some reason, or his name. He said, or whoever this person is, says, yes, it has stopped asking for new toys. It stopped last week, but they did actually remove almost all of the ones they asked for over the last few months. So that's interesting. Now, Tim says he finds that on older toys which have been around, you find it on older toys that have been around for a few years. Now, we already know for sure that declaration of conformity requests don't appear to be requested on listings where Amazon has sold the product at some point. So Amazon don't want to remove those because they don't want to remove their own possibility to sell, of course. There we go. Of course it's Phil. So it's interesting. I think if we'd had this conversation 2 or 3 weeks ago, we would have been like, yeah, stay away from toys, move away from toys for the moment because of these declaration of conformity. Now, I'm not telling everyone to go out and start sourcing toys again and go mad and do this. But we have got to remember when it comes to Amazon, they seem to go through this kind of cycle of when they're really hot on some things and they're not really hot on other things. So I think toys are dead in the water and you're not going to be able to sell them anymore? No, I think this is something that we will always have to deal with, especially after Brexit and especially what's going to be coming in the future, which we're going to talk about tonight with, the introduction or getting rid of the CE marking in the UK. But I think don't roll out toys at the moment. That's my thoughts on that.
I still like a good Playmobil, so you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. It wouldn't be Q4 without some Playmobiles. Oh, what are they called? Not that I asked. Not I want you to tell me what they are, but there's a certain type of one that we always used to sell, which was like a fairgroundy type one.
Ferris wheel.
Yeah,
Big one.
Yeah, big one.
I think I literally just buy 4 of them, 5 of them. Like that's how like
that's not the one, is it?
the Ferris wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, always the one that sells. It's always,
that one for years.
Absolutely, always the one that sells. Right. Okay. So that's really interesting. So it's good to hear. So yeah, guys, don't rule out toys. Don't rule out. It's always worth taking them under consideration. And I know we are a community of toy sellers, so that's definitely good to hear. Hayden says he's noticed he's got 502 SKUs. LOL. He's gearing up for a good.
All the same ASIN. I'm just joking.
That is some solid work, Hayden. Well done. Good job. You're definitely going to see some good results with that. Right. So let's have a quick talk about the 502 toy SKUs. Let's have a talk about this responsible person. So who got this email today? Give me
these emails.
Did you get it?
No, I found it on my account because I literally just typed it in the search bar and then found the bit which says click here, and it came up with 2 of something. I mean, I don't know what it is. Then click. I didn't want to start clicking around and muck anything up, so I left it. But I found it. But no, I don't seem to get these emails. Like I get emails that are related to like account health or general advertising or something, but none of these changes seem to come through unless it's from another like a different country. But that's
you'll probably find I don't know. I know where
on these groups, these sort of like what you're saying now and all that, and that's how I hear about them, but I never actually get them myself.
Well, I'd seen the email. Ruth said she got it. Craig said he got it. Someone's writing down Playmobil Ferris wheel. There we go. And a couple of people messaged me about it, and then a couple of people tagged me in it. And what's this kind of? Oh no, is this going to be like the declaration of conformity? Is this going to be the end for resellers for certain types of products? Because the CE mark does cover a wide variety of products that people resell on Amazon. So I saw the email myself. I didn't have a chance to really digest it properly because I was out earlier. But when I got home, I looked into it in a bit more detail. And I know a little bit about the responsible person through the cosmetic side of things. So it's always been something that you've had to do in the cosmetic world. And I'd read about it a little bit over the previous months about Amazon volunteering themselves as a service to be the responsible person. So I'd seen a little bit about it. I'd known a little bit about it. But just before we get started, the good news is on this is something that's not massively going to affect UK sellers. It is going to have an impact, but it's going to be kind of mild. And I'll talk about that in a little bit in detail in a moment. Now, Luke, you put a paragraph up earlier in the Elite Sellers where it's just said something along the lines of...
I really should have read the whole article.
You just highlighted the bit that sounded good.
It gave me enough information to say I didn't need to read anything more. It was something to do with selling in Europe from the UK or something. And then I just kind of didn't give up. I do that. I'm like, if it's really important, I'll obviously double check and triple check. But if I think it's probably not that relevant anyway, in general, and then obviously I find something to validate that, I'll usually just leave it as that for now. But what do you think?
Well, I'm a bit of a bloodhound with these type of things. I like to know every detail. I like to analyze every single line. I'm someone that reads the Amazon terms of service and like, oh, that's interesting. So for me, yes, there was a very strong paragraph in it, which is the paragraph that you shared earlier, that pretty much said, if you're not going to be selling in the EU, it's not really going to be an issue for you. So, just kind of forget about it. But because I'd heard so much about the responsible person, I knew that there was a little something more to it. So, that's why I sort of spent a little bit of time this afternoon kind of digging deep, because I knew it was an email that a lot of people were going to get today. And I knew it was a question that people were going to ask, so I wanted to find out as much as possible about it. So for those of you that don't know, the responsible person is a person that is allocated within the EU for products that are manufactured outside of the EU, and they can appoint this responsible person to ensure that those particular products that have a CE mark on them, so this is products that only have the CE mark on them, so products that have the CE mark on them, to ensure that they comply with all safety standards, to ensure that the supply chain is legit, to ensure that the whole process of manufacture, getting the goods into the country and all the way through to the sale of the product and the after sale of the product is being handled according to EU standards. So that's what a responsible person is designed to do. They are not the person that manufactures. They generally won't sell it. They're not a distributor. They're not, the brand owner or anything like that. It's an independent source that someone appoints to look after this particular area. Now, to be honest, the responsible person doesn't really do anything, from what I can see. It's just a service that people register with or go to ensure that, all of the compliance documents are there. Interestingly enough, what I discovered during my digging is that Amazon is now giving us a lot of the details of the responsible person who is allocated to looking after a manufacturer or a brand of products. So like earlier on, I was looking at one for WWE, and it gives the name and email address of the responsible person for WWE. Now that got my brain thinking, and I'm thinking, hang on a sec, if we know who this person is, if they're the responsible person, I wonder if we can get declarations of conformity off that person. So it's not something I've tried myself, but I had one for a WWE product, and I looked in it earlier. It says their name, which company they work for, the email address. So what's stopping me emailing that person and saying, I've purchased the product. It's a John Cena action figure. I'm concerned about the safety. Could you send me a copy of the declaration of conformity? It's worth a try. So I actually think this is a good thing from that point of view, but that was just my thoughts on that in particular. So this responsible person is for CE marked products. So here's the difference. When we left the EU on the 31st of December, when we manufacture products, we are no longer part of the EU. So therefore, we no longer have to put CE products on the products that we manufacture and sell in the UK, right? There is a new mark that's going to replacing the CE mark, and that is called, I have to write this down, the UK CA mark. But don't think about that too much for the moment, because that's the new mark that's replacing the CE mark for UK products, but that's not coming into effect until next year. So that's the 1st of January, 2022. But here lies the problem for us. Because there's this honeymoon period, there's this transition period for the CE mark. Although if we do not intend on selling those products in Europe, we do not have to comply by the rules. What happens is there's a lot of these products that are still going to be around that still have the CE mark. And technically, Amazon, as a responsible person themselves, they want that information. You know what Amazons are like for documents and things like that. They're a stickler for the rules. So they want to know that if that particular product is listed within the Amazon catalog, that there is a responsible person assigned to that product if it has a CE mark. Okay. Hopefully, is everyone still with me? Fingers crossed. So then what happened today was they've created a dashboard. So any CE product or CE marked product that is in your inventory If you click on the email and you go to the dashboard, if you click on that, it will take you through and it will show you a list of all of your CE products that you currently have in your inventory. Now, what you can do is you can flip between the two tabs. It says completed and incomplete. If you hit on complete, it will show you all the ones that you go in and you can see where the responsible person has been assigned to that particular product. Okay. Now, the ones that I were looking at earlier were like WWE ones. So it's not just that product. It probably means that all the WWE products are covered by that one responsible product. So probably WWE is going to be safe. The incomplete ones are the ones that do not have a responsible person as yet assigned to that particular brand of products. So here's what now affects us as the sellers. Amazon is probably not going to allow, regardless of whether it's EU or UK or whatever, Amazon is probably not going to allow products to be sold that does not have a responsible person attributed to that particular product. Because if you think about it, my WWE figure, say for instance, that I was selling, just because I'm not selling it in the EU doesn't mean that someone else is not selling it in the EU. So it's a bit like the declarations of conformity for the toys. It affects the product wholly. Okay. Now, this is the important part. Amazon is not saying we have to put the information in as sellers. It says that it encourages us to keep an eye and to put this information in. But this new directive does not come into force until the 16th of July. So nothing's going to happen between now and the 16th of July. But come the 16th of July, for any of those products in the list that do not have a responsible person assigned to them, I would expect that they will get deactivated, because that's just the way Amazon rolls.
So many things. I kind of got out of toys at the perfect time in a way. I'm like, I've literally just had to, I just glaze over it all.
This isn't just toys, Luke. This is anything that's got a CE mark. So it's generally anything that has, it's anything that has safety equipment to it. So it could be personal protective equipment. It could be certain types of machinery. It could be toys. It could be some personal and hygiene type products. So it's not necessarily. Pardon?
Like electric razors and electronics.
Yeah, electrical items. Yeah, anything that have got, has to go through a stringent safety testing period. That's what CE mark is. Now, just because we've left the EU, we're not going to have CE marks anymore. We're going to have our own mark, which is this UKCA mark. But it takes time for that to be put on all these products. So if you are manufacturing a product now, you're going to have to comply with the new UKCA mark. If it's, you're a UK manufacturer and you want it to be sold in the UK, that has to go on there. But obviously, if you intend for your product to be sold in the EU as well, then it's got to have a CE mark on it as well. Whereas a CE mark used to cover us, but it doesn't anymore because we're not part of the EU. So it's not necessarily just toys. It's anything that has like a safety element to it. But I know that sounds really, really complicated. And as more time goes on, the more we start talking about it and everything like that, I'm sure it will come more to light. But all you guys need to know is, one, it doesn't really affect us that badly if we're not going to be selling in the EU, which a lot of us are not going to be doing moving forward. Two, it doesn't really affect you if you're not manufacturing your own products. If you are a brand owner and you are doing private label products and you intend to sell those products within the EU, yes, you will need to get a responsible person. It's something you can do through brand registry. And actually, Amazon offers a service where Amazon will be your responsible person. And I think you've got to pay like 25 euros a month. So it's a pretty good deal, to be perfectly honest. But you just do that through the brand registry part of Amazon. So you don't need to worry about it even if you're a reseller. As time goes on, between now and July, I would imagine a lot of that information is going to get filled in because, you know, it's general. You don't have to fill it in. So there's nothing actually, anybody that's watching here tonight or anyone that's going to see this information for the future, there's nothing that we actually have to do. The only thing you have to be aware of is probably come the 16th of July, if under that new responsible person dashboard, you have products, when you click onto the incomplete section, I think you go over on the right hand side and it says assign responsible person or something like that. If you click onto that and that information is blank and you're still trying to sell the product past the 16th of July, I'd imagine the listing's going to get deactivated and removed. But as far as I can tell at this stage, there is no policy health implications, account health implications, no policy compliance implications. There's nothing really we have to do. If you do come across the responsible person for a particular brand and you want to fill it in to be helpful for everyone, that's great. I'm pretty sure that I was reading earlier that this information for the responsible person, I'm pretty sure moving forward has to be printed on the product packaging of the product. So this should be really easy information for people to get hold of. So in a nutshell, after me talking for like 20 minutes non-stop saying loads of complicated stuff, we don't really need to do anything.
Yeah, I was just like, you know what, I'll go now. I'll come back in a bit.
Sorry.
That's good. At least you've sort of deciphered it, you know, and broken it down for everyone anyway. So as much of a handful as it might have been, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I knew a bit about it anyway. But the only other thing that I wanted to add on as well is that this is also something, and I don't know when it will happen, but this is also something that impacts the cosmetic world as well. So don't be surprised if we see a similar type of email and you start seeing some cosmetic type products or topical products that go on the skin being filtered into this dashboard as well, because although they don't have CE marks on them, a responsible person still has to be assigned for cosmetic products as well. So definitely this is something that we will probably see in the next 3 to 6 months, Amazon talking about cosmetic products as well. But in the same vein, it doesn't really affect us too much. Now, we don't know what the regulations are going to be for the new UK CA mark. And well, I'm sure we do, but I just didn't look into it in that much detail. But obviously, that's going to be a lot more easier for us to understand because it's going to affect, you know, UK manufactured products or products that are going to be sold in the UK. So that's definitely going to affect us more, you know, but we don't need to talk about that at the moment. That's you know, pretty much a year away, or 9 months actually, because we're in March now. Can't believe how quick this year's going.
Yeah, no, I'm already seeing it as like Q1's done. You know, that's how I'm like, oh, it's already near the middle of the year, and that's that's kind of how I'm like, yeah, middle of the year, summer's here, Q4's next month.
April, March should be pretty good actually, because April is the end of the first week. Easter is the end of the first week of April. So I'd imagine as we go through March, as the weather starts to get a bit better and things like that, the shops will still not, non-essential shops still won't be open until the 12th of April. So I'd actually imagine, I think March, I think it's going to be quite a good month.
I think it's, well, actually last March was pretty good. I know, but that's very difficult to tell. That's the problem. I like to go off like looking at historical data, but last March was the start of the end of towards the end of March was the end of, or was it April?
Yeah, it was. No, we went into lockdown on the 23rd of March. So we went into lockdown on the 23rd of March, and that's when things started. But that was like proper lockdown. So I think 2 weeks before that, we'd already gone into like a limited lockdown. So I think it was mid-March things started really kicking off.
Yeah, so I like to go off. Obviously, I you know, if I sold new products, it could be as great as I wanted it to be. But obviously, I sell old stuff. So it is going to be interesting to try to be aware that it might be different. Last year could be a little bit different, you know, in terms of what was the best sellers in Q1 compared to you know, that kind of thing. So for me, it's more. But luckily, I do. For some reason, I do love my Q4s. so for me, as long as I maximise my Q4, I always have a good year. So I could almost do nothing in March, or I kind of see it as that if I made no sales or like I made no profit, I don't really worry too much because I know where I need to maximise and have my focus. So I guess it's not a luxury I've got, but because you're still losing opportunity potentially. But yeah, that's how that's kind of how I see it.
I think Amazon's changed completely, you know, in terms of, I was talking about this to someone earlier, actually. I think, yes, we'll probably see a little bit of a dip compared to what we experienced this time last year. Of course, absolutely. But I think in people's shopping habits have changed. We've become creatures of habit. What we used to do, once we do something at least 6 times, it becomes a habit. So therefore, if you've ordered 6, you know, like me, I literally have ordered, before the pandemic, I ordered like maybe 5 times on Amazon in my life. And this still doesn't sound a lot, but I reckon in the last year, I've probably ordered like maybe off Amazon, maybe like 15 times. And I know that doesn't sound a lot, but that's 15 times ordering stuff on Amazon that I would not have ordered. I mean, Matt orders stuff on Amazon every day, so that's a joke anyway. But, you know, for me, I actually like, you know, have been actively ordering stuff on Amazon because my mindset's changed a little bit actually, because I sort of think now, oh, okay, well, I don't want to go to the shops because, you know, I haven't been in a shop for like 3 months or whatever and that type of thing. And I think, okay.
Do you see it like, I know some people will be like this, or I'd rather pay like a £2, £3 insurance fee and not be interacting with people in the shop. So I buy it. They know it's more expensive on Amazon, but they're paying that. I don't have to interact. I'm not going to get
like that.
You know, it's like an insurance. I'm paying a premium.
Yeah, an insurance fee. I like that. You heard that here first. Insurance fee. I like that. You know what? At the end of the day, you have to pay for convenience. Well, you don't have to pay for convenience, but more than enough people out there are more than prepared to pay for convenience. There's no doubt about that. And this last year has taught us, if it's taught us anything else, that you know, that is not going anywhere. And if anything, we are becoming a world that is more in tune to ordering, you know, through the likes of Amazon. And some of the changes that Amazon are going to put in over the next few years in terms of innovations and how they operate their brand registry and the type of products and brands that are going to be sold, it's going to become even harder for people to buy elsewhere. So, you know, that opportunity is most definitely.
I'm sure I saw this. They were, you know, Amazon Launch. Is it Amazon Launchpad? That is. I never made it up. Have I? They were offering £100,000 like prize for the. But that reminds us of like Kickstarter. You know, where they, do you know what I mean by? And it's like they're trying to get those new innovative businesses now through their Launchpad, rather than them going and raising, you know, equity finance from somewhere else. And it's kind of like, even, and obviously it all relates back to selling business, doesn't it? So it's interesting. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Amazon have got so much innovation coming, and like I said, yes, we might see a bit of a temporary, you know, dip because we're going to be coming out of lockdown just as the weather's going to start getting better as well. So naturally, we're going to see a little bit of a slower level of sales because of that. But I think if you keep your inventory, you know, varied, if you keep it wide and you are not still ordering like we're in the middle of Q4 and a national or worldwide pandemic, then you're going to be okay. So if you were ordering 3 months ago 20 of a product, scale it down. Look at the data. Look at the data of that particular product of what it was pre the pandemic. So go back 2 years to have a look at the data. If there's one thing for sure, not taking into account last year, 2020, the figures are pretty skewed, but it's very obvious from the data that certain products, most products, if they have been in stock for years on Amazon, they generally sell the same during that period, year after year after year. And we can rely on that data for us to be able to say, okay, it's March 2019. This particular product was selling 30 a day. It was selling 60 a day in 2020, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to have a look at those 2019 figures. So just do that and you should be okay.
Or what you can do, you know, what I sometimes do is, because I'll be like, you know, what was a month sales of the product? That's by, because I always like to have a couple of months anyway, but you could obviously be like, okay, well, I buy enough for a month, but if it turns into 3 months, then that's still okay anyway, because that's my limit. So, you know, and obviously, but that there's, or you could half it maybe. So half what it did last year, but again, you know, as a rough, it's never going to be perfect because you're going to lose, you know, potentially losing out somewhere. So, but I'd rather make the sales and maybe pay like this is how I see it. I'd rather like have the control, and I'd rather also have more stock so that I'm basically always in that position, right? Yeah. Rather than having less stock, or maybe, you know, 'cause yes, that might mean I have to pay more storage fees, and then yes, I might have to pay. I might have more stock there, but I prefer to have that and be in that position because I've made the decision rather than being caught out, or as in I've literally made the conscious decision for that, and I accept what that comes. But obviously a lot of people can do that other ways, and you have to have a lot of capital to be able to do that and still have money to buy new stock. So I guess all different ways are still the correct way. It just depends on each individual person. You know, there's no right way to do it. Don't think you need to scale back and you know, maybe sell 50% of what you did last year. Or don't think you've got to try to do the same to try to chase those sales that might not be there. There's no right way to do it anyway.
No, definitely not. Test the market, see what works for you. Look at the data. It's really important. Just go back and have a look at the comments. And then we've just got one more subject that I wanted to discuss before we sign off for the evening. Kate, don't worry if you're a bit confused. It's the first time we've talked about this. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to write a post, because I know sometimes sometimes if you can sit and read and digest it, it will make more sense, and I will do less of the waffling as well. So I'll write a post over the next couple of days about the responsible person and just detailing what it is. But the main crux of it is you don't really have to do anything unless you find that information, and then just to be helpful for everyone else, you can pop it in the new dashboard that Amazon have created. Phil says, interesting that someone puts if someone puts one in, then everyone else gets that one completed. So technically, if you put in the MD of Hasbro, his email address in their head office, who would know? Well, that's interesting. We don't know if Amazon are going to do a physical check on whether or not it's a responsible person. So what's really interesting, but I don't know how it works for the world of the CE mark, but with the cosmetics responsible person, the responsible person is actually detailed on a portal called the CNPC portal, which is where you go to check who the responsible person is for that particular brand or that particular cosmetic. So it's like a public record. You do have to register, and I don't even know if you have to pay to do it or whatever, but it's technically a public record. So Amazon might cross-reference that information. I'm not sure. If there's a public record for who that responsible person is, again, I'm not sure. As far as I understand it, it is printed and going to be printed on the packaging moving forward. So presumably Amazon, all they'd have to do is look at the product and say, okay, the person for Hasbro is this. But I can't be 100% sure on that. So whether or not there's a public record of who that responsible person is, I don't know. Let's have a quick look. I like what David said. He's put like responsible person at brand.com as the information. Wouldn't it be that simple if we could put it in there? Philip says it's the CE mark. It's also machinery, chemical stuff as well. Summer stuff, swimming pools. Yes, I read that. It's on like swimming pool, hot tubs, as well as toys. So it's on like a really wide variety of products. And that's why I really wanted to talk about it in detail tonight, because I know that a lot of people are going to go into the dashboard and they're going to see like 200 products in there and they're going to poop their pants. But it's going to be something that, yeah, it's nothing that we have to massively worry about. Talking about convenience, Steve says some people are money rich and time poor. Absolutely. And Phil said, remember, people are going to be staying at home again this year for the holidays. So they may start to be able to go abroad, but on the whole, it's staycation time again. So that's the boom market for this summer, most definitely. So the final thing that I wanted to talk about tonight, and again, it's something that's been brought to my attention, something I wasn't massively aware of. I knew that Amazon were doing it. But again, it's something, and I don't know if you've seen it. So again, good to hear of people's thoughts if they've seen it themselves, which is the kind of slightly annoying minimum order quantities that people who are on this kind of new beta program that Amazon is testing. It's a beta program that Amazon is testing where sellers, I think it's invite only, so it's for kind of really, really big sellers. And what they're able to do for really low value products is they are able to set a minimum order quantity of like 2 or 3 of a single product. So if the customer wants to buy it off them, they can buy it singly on a separate SKU on the same listing. But it seems at the moment that everyone that's on this kind of beta program with the minimum order quantity set is actually getting the buy box. So this sounds a little bit confusing. Have you come across this, Luke?
Yeah, basically like every listing.
Yeah.
I haven't checked every listing that badly. I don't know, maybe 40% of my listings. But I've seen the only thing I thought, and it's just like going off about the whole thing, is that there's so many things that have happened over the years that have changed. You know, one time there was a press buy box for a long time for lower value products that was around for maybe 6 weeks. Things have happened, but usually it adjusts to not be as bad as it initially looks. Mm-hmm. I've not looked into it further than it's a nuisance, like an itch. But that could develop into something more, but I'm not yet diverting my attention to it than just monitoring the situation.
Well, I've had it on pretty good authority that this has been around a lot longer than people are aware. I think it came into the UK a couple of weeks ago. So this is why most people have maybe not seen it or only just starting to see it now. So what it's going to look like is the listing's not going to look exactly the same. The Keeper or the BuyBook Pro data is not going to look any different whatsoever. But what it's going to look like is the person that's holding the buy box. So you need to scroll down wherever the buy box appears on your screen. Mine, with all my different extensions and BuyBook Pro, I have to scroll down for ages before I get the buy box. What will happen is you will see that you can order, it will say like £5.25 for the product. And you think, okay, that's all right, £5.25. Then when you go to buy it in the buy box, it will say you have to order a minimum of 3. So £5.25 becomes £15.75, and that's all the customer can order. Now, as we're all aware from suppressed buy box situations, that the average Amazon customer doesn't know if you click other sellers, it will take you to a single offering opportunity. They are so, focused on the buy box that they are going to buy from that buy box. But what's interesting through some of the examples that I actually looked today, now I know why Amazon want to do this. I've got it on pretty good authority why Amazon are doing this. But I actually think this is going to have an opposite effect. From the information that I've seen, that it actually looks like it's turning customers off, which of course, a couple of examples that I saw today were like 6-packs and things like that. And someone set a minimum order quantity of 3. Well, I don't want 18 of a product. I want like a single item. I might have been stretching myself to get a 6-pack at the end of the day. So what you can see for a lot of these listings, and I don't know if you've seen it, Luke, you can gradually see the BSR going up ever since the minimum order quantity requirements come into place.
I haven't looked, but I was speaking to Johnny about it the other day. because he was mentioning it to me, could we sell like, I think, that kind of lower price products?
Yeah.
And I said it usually falls back to a combination between sales quantity or velocity and the original. So the original thing is they are implementing this, but then they usually adapt it over time because they notice that the sales isn't really matching what, as in ultimately they want to make lots of sales for the customers who are then happy. And if they're not doing that or something's happening, then that's clearly something that they need to rectify. So similar to what you were saying, where the sales is obviously not as good, ultimately they're a platform for selling. And so they're going to change things. Even if they keep it, they'll adapt it or change it to obviously make sure they're not losing sales.
Yeah. So what I think will happen, now I'm pretty sure, and I've had this on good authority from quite a large seller who is part of this program, who I've spoken to today, part of the testing program. And what we've got from that information is the reason why Amazon are doing this is because they're trying to cut out lots of different duplicate listings of products. So if you have a product that's like a single item, and then there's a 2-pack, and then there's a 3-pack. So this is going to affect real multi-pack items only. So what Amazon's trying to do is to get the customer to buy it from one source listing. But the trouble is with that, as we've already said, if you've got multiple items, it's going to put the customer off because they might not want to buy 6 items or 8 items or 10 items or whatever the minimum order of quantity is for that particular product. So I think that's going to have a detrimental effect. But where I think it's really going to be good, which Amazon haven't thought of, because I think this is going to backfire on them, and I completely agree, Luke, I think that this is still beta, so it's something they're going to test. Whilst it's in beta, I think it's going to be a pain in the ass for anyone that's not on beta. And I think the people that are on beta with it are going to be absolutely loving it and selling, you know, like crazy on it. So there's nothing we can do about that. But where I see opportunity, and I always try to see opportunity as opposed to getting beaten down by the system or whatever. The type of selling that I do now, where I add something unique to a particular product or something like that, I actually think, and the evidence is there, that this is turning people off of a particular product because they have to buy so many. And we know that it's only affecting like multiple items, obviously. So I see this as a real opportunity for targeting these type of products and maybe creating single offerings, but adding something unique to it. So therefore it's protected. So not many people can jump on that particular listing, or no one can jump on that listing. And going back, because I generally think about the opportunities for selling on Amazon, how I would think about it from a customer point of view, is if I went onto that listing that I looked at earlier, I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to buy 18 of those. So I'll back out and then I'll retype the listing, retype the product that I'm looking for. And then all of a sudden, if I can create an offering that's going to come up with single, then what I'm doing is I'm leveraging the demand for that particular product, but I'm snatching them with my own, listing, because I've created what the customer wants. And that's going to be really easy to tell, because if we see the BSR going up from a nice selling product, then we know that people are getting put off because they don't want to buy that multiple. So then I'm going to create an offering that fulfills that particular demand for that product. So I think it's going to be good.
What about the advertising side of things?
So the advertising side of things, I thought about this earlier. Again, your advertising will only deliver when you're in the buy box position. So unfortunately, that's not going to work purely because you're not, from what I can see, whoever's got this minimum order, quantity, there is.
Fees are cheaper, aren't they, or something?
Yeah, fees are cheaper, so it's combined. So not only are they selling more of something, but they're also getting a better deal, the seller, in terms of the fee.
And that means they can actually sell it for that price because they're getting it better, like they're getting it for less fee, if you're going to get what I mean.
Absolutely. So that's what I mean. Anyone that's on this particular program is having like a heyday at the moment. They're having a whale of a time. But I always, like I said, I always try and find opportunity where, there's no point in just looking at something and say, well, that's beat me. I can see some opportunity, especially those that are in ESA and doing this type of selling at the moment. I see a really good opportunity for being able to identify gaps in the market, identify when the customers are not happy, and kind of fit in a product in within that gap, and being able to scoop up some of the sales that some people are not prepared to get, if that makes sense, or not prepared to whatever. So I see it as a kind of opportunity. But I think it's something, I completely agree. Amazon is king of data. So they will see, and every one that I looked at today, it's the same story, BSR going up. So if this is impacting on sales, I think that Amazon will adjust that during the beta period. But not only that, what you've got to remember is, whilst there's certain people on the beta period, it was like when the Dangerous Goods program first tested. The people on there at first were like, yes, this is absolutely amazing. We've got this market all to ourselves and we're taking advantage of it. It's the same with this one. But when there's more people that have got the opportunity to be able to do this, say, for instance, you and I were on the same listing, and I've been in the beta and I've set my minimum order quantity as 3, whereas you come on, you set yours as 2. Then the next person comes on, they can set theirs as 1. So then we're back to the start anyway. So that's the way I see it, that it's a temporary inconvenience, an annoying inconvenience, but it's just another thing that people have got to be aware of, for sure. And that's
I want to try that program, to be honest. Sorry?
It's invite only.
I know it is, but I'm like, how do you get in? Yeah, what's the? How do you get in?
I can only assume it's the people that I know that are on it are the same people who have Amazon account managers. So I think that that's probably got a little bit of a.
And most of the listings that I'm on is Seller Fulfilled Prime.
And it's Seller Fulfilled, yeah. Oh, and that's the other thing as well. It's only.
Okay, so that's a waste of conversation.
Yeah, so, and that's the other side of it as well. This is, it's either Seller Fulfilled Prime or the seller is fulfilling themselves. So you can't do this if you can't be part of it if you don't
I remember now. That's what confused me, because it's then promoting slower delivery, and so that's what confused me.
No, but I also think at the same time, and the pandemic mucked up Seller Fulfilled Prime for Amazon. Seller Fulfilled Prime, I think what will happen, a bit like what we saw with the European Fulfillment Network versus Pan-European, where they made the European Fulfillment Network more expensive because they wanted people on the Pan-European. I think had the pandemic have not happened last year, they were pushing so many people towards Seller Fulfilled Prime because they don't want to continually keep building warehouses and storing goods and things like that. They were pushing people so much towards Seller Fulfilled Prime. I think had the pandemic have not happened, I think we would have seen a lot more favorable rates being implemented from Seller Fulfilled Prime, but they couldn't do it because because of the pandemic and delays on packages and things like that. And I wouldn't be surprised once we get out of this in the following 12 months after that, during that period of time, if we don't see more favoritism being delivered to sellers who are using the Seller Fulfilled Prime option.
But is it next day delivery or it's 2 days? I thought it was two. Cause on the deliveries, it looks like it's 2 days, but maybe that's just an estimate.
They extended it as far as I was aware. So I think it had to be the same. It had to be the same as Prime. So it had to be next day. But I can't remember. There's a few people have tested it.
I've been checking some of the listings just off back, when I first noticed it, and it was the day after tomorrow on all of them. It was so that's
I think we definitely extended it because of the pandemic.
I've not looked into it enough to know, but I was just sort of taking a quick look at things and going off that.
Yeah, Johnny said Yeah, Johnny says it's next day. So it's next day as it shares the buy box with the same as the FBA does. So I knew it had to be the same as Prime, but I did think that there was an option that it could be extended, which pretty much it was like, okay, we might as well be merchant fulfilled, but that might have been during the depths of the pandemic. I can't remember. Oh, Ben says it's the estimate is 48 hours, but it must be sent via tracked within 24 hours. But I completely agree with Johnny. I think, you know, for anyone that can consider seller fulfilled Prime option, I think this is going to be something that is going to, I think it started with the favoritism of merchant fulfilled that we saw all the way back in Q4 in 2019, when we started seeing favoritism of the buy box go from FBA to merchant fulfilled. I think once we get out of this pandemic, once the world starts to return to normal, I think Amazon will start putting quite a bit of emphasis on people that are doing seller fulfill Prime.
I like a challenge anyway. No, I like a challenge. I like I get sometimes I get a bit bored and complacent when there's like nothing to sort of make
challenge you.
Yeah, nothing to challenge me. I get a bit not. I don't even get complacent. I just get bored. Yeah, and I like it when I have to start like adapting or die. Like I'm like, oh, finally. It's like, you know, it reminds me of like a film where people need to go into battle, like warriors, and they're like, and then they're not in war, and then they suddenly go into war, and they're like, yes, you know, but obviously not quite like that. But you get what I mean? Yeah, I when it's sometimes too easy, I kind of hate it.
Yeah, and you know what? Again, I was speaking to someone. I felt that's all I do. Speak, you know, I do speak to a lot of different sellers during the day. But I think that I was talking about this earlier. Amazon FBA, and especially if you were a seller post about kind of about 3 years ago, something like that, it just went through this really, I don't know, solid period of time where it was just super easy. You send the stuff in. If Amazon lost it, they reimbursed you. You get the buy box if you're 12.5% cheaper than the merchant fulfilled. It was super easy. You buy the stuff it sells. You know, people didn't do this and people didn't do that and whatsoever. And you know, for that period of time, there was a good period of time where everything was really rosy but nothing changed whatsoever. So much has changed since then. And you have to adapt to it. If you were someone that was selling pre 3-4 years ago, and you are, I don't believe anybody that was selling 3-4 years ago is selling exactly the same as they did then, because that way of selling just doesn't really exist on Amazon anymore.
You could still do it. You just probably wouldn't make as much. You'd have to have either you can make the same profit with like 4 times more capital or 3 times more capital, or you would have to take a reduction. Like if you're getting a part-time income, you can pretty much, and it doesn't really matter what you're necessarily getting. Just, you know, a bit of extra cash, 300 quid, 500. I think you can do pretty much anything within reason. But that's then only ever taking it to that level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've spoken about this before. I work with someone who flies below the VAT threshold, has got no intention of going over the VAT threshold. His margins are crazy because he buys stock and he sits on it, you know, for 3 to 6 months, and he sells everything that we all want to sell, you know, from, you know, really big profits and things like that, because he loves his job. He's never going to leave his job. He really enjoys it, and he sees his Amazon business as, you know, just like a savings vehicle, essentially, like an investment kind of vehicle. And, you know, at 85 grand or whatever he does, his profits are as good as someone that's selling, you know, 250,000 a year, because he's got the luxury of not having to worry about, you know, dealing with price tankers or compliance documents or things like that, because he's very strategic in the way that he runs his business. And it's different strokes for different folks, and people, you know, do things differently, and that's what we've all got to accept. I think sometimes being part of the Facebook groups, and we see people doing things, you think, oh God, I've got to do it that way, or I have to do it that way, or I have to do it this way. You run your business however you see fit and what works for you, depending on whether you're full-time or part-time, or it's a side hustle, or you want to smash through the VAT registration, or you want to stay below. You got to run it how you see. But the most important thing is, you know, adapting. and evolving with the way that the world changes. That's what I see anyway.
And also sometimes I notice it as well, it's where people don't stick things out for long enough. As in, I noticed that, you've got to be adaptive to things, but also the hard, pushing through the hard times, doing the same again next month, even though you don't see any forward momentum. Maybe there's something like this seller-fulfilled prime minimum order quantity thing we're talking about, and the indicators are saying it can't. I think it's going to change or be a little bit easier, and obviously it's a little bit harder now, and you're trying to push through that or adapt. But sometimes it's about not going and just dumping it and going, I don't know, going to unique bundles or something. It's not. Sometimes it is about obviously being aware what to do if it doesn't change, but also pushing through. Because even 3 to 4 months, 5 months is not that long. But some people see if something lasts a month, they're like, oh my god, like my sales are halved. It's 1 month in, like I've got to stop Amazon, and I'm gonna, it's very really, even a year is not that long. So in business terms, so even if it wasn't working for a year, it's not that. There's nothing. It's like 1 second, really. But I think everyone wants to see the right direction. So that's also about the everyone wants to see each month improving.
Yeah,
really, it's not really that.
It's natural. And I know Hayden was watching earlier. It was in Hayden's group with someone, a relatively new seller, had said that they were a little bit disappointed because they hadn't hit what they'd done in January, but it was so close. It was like so close between February and January. And I just commented and I said, look, at the end of the day, one, you've got to give yourself a massive pat on the back, because February is a shorter selling month. It's 3 days shorter, which, if you're selling £300, £400, £500 a day, that makes a big difference over 3 days. So it's 3 days less than either month, either side it. Not only that, it's probably the second slowest month of the year, slightly coming out of lockdown, more people getting kind of vaccines. So if you've nearly hit what you've hit in January, don't be disappointed. That's a really, really good achievement. And I think the thing is, it's very hard and it's very rare that you will see someone, there are people, don't get me wrong, where you see the year going like that, for an established seller. You will probably see a year going like that if you're a new seller.
Yeah, that's what I would think. Yeah. Where people are saying, I've seen my January and February is as good as December. I don't think you can really have that when you're a larger seller, unless you've done something wrong, and that's why as in you've done the wrong thing. As in my December was terrible for some reason, but it's very difficult to because you understand how to make December or Q4 so great once you've had a couple of runs. So it is, yeah. But again, it's all about taking, because even being doing Amazon now for 5 years, you're probably 6 years or something. It feels like and then maybe 1 or 2 years was RA, sort of building up to the online and into wholesale. It doesn't feel like that. I used to think 5 years back in the day would be ages. I was like, oh, I don't even know where I'll be in 5 years. Amazon reselling on Amazon could be gone.
Yeah, Amazon finished.
After 3 years, say 2 years ago, online arbitrage would be not a thing, or it could be complete. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's different, but it's not that different. In terms of you buying and you're selling and just selling, I don't know, a pot noodle or something. As in selling a Disney. Yeah, it's slightly changed, but you get what I mean. And even 5 years ago, and even after 5 years, it's like, oh, okay, actually, this could, I'm already thinking next 3. And by then I'll be 80-year-old man sitting here doing the lives.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One thing you can rest assured, Tuesday, 7 o'clock, me and Luke in our 70s, we'll be here banging on about responsible people and, what's going on with the world of Amazon.
How to use Amazon as a vehicle for your pension and all that.
Absolutely. How to get the best deal on denture cream. That's what we'll be going through, definitely. David's quickly said, sorry, I just wanted to say, going back to the minimum order quantity, you have to add the product to the basket to see if it's the force multiply option with a question mark. No, it's actually on the buy box that you can see it. So it's a little drop down menu. So most of them that I've seen, the minimum that they've set the quantity is 3 upwards. Something like that. Yeah, I think
the fees make it worth it, really worth it, that price.
And then also it tells the customer in the buy box what the combination price is as well. So if it was like £5.25, it says minimum order of 3, and this order is going to cost you £15.75. So it's quite transparent. But Amazon customers are very laser focused. They are one-click button type of people. So something else that I've just thought of, actually, that I hadn't have thought of, because of the way that Amazon customers shop, they're one-click people.
Yeah, what you're gonna say.
So what I think could potentially happen here, which could also impact on the beta, is I think you might start seeing complaints via voice of the customer, overpriced.
Well, no, I've been charged 3 times and I ordered once. That's what it says. So
and I think you might start seeing returns and things like that. So that's something to take into account as well. I'm really complimentary of Amazon in the way that they do things and some of the changes that they make. And I was talking to Johnny about this earlier as well. And I, for the life of me, cannot imagine why Amazon have done this. It's great for the people that are in the beta tester. I cannot see any positive from a customer point of view why they've done this. Because Amazon are so customer centric in all of the decisions that they make, but I see no advantage whatsoever for the customer. So some brain box, in Amazon's come up with this, but I think it's ridiculous.
I mean, the only way I could see it being a viable reason is if it was for FBA, because they're trying to clean out their fulfillment centers. Like they're trying to push, flush through stock, but they're not doing it for that. So therefore, I can't see, unless they will do it for that. I mean, I'm just randomly making up things here, but
Yeah, they could, because what could eventually happen is you could be in a position where you've got lots of different sellers with more minimum order quantities. What we don't know as yet is if another seller comes onto it who also is in the beta test, whether or not they can reduce from 3 to 2. We don't know that as yet.
Yes. I mean, in theory, I was looking at the prices, and if I can, because I take lower profits, so lower ROIs because I do volume, I looked at some of the sell prices. I was like, well, if I was selling 3 and I had, like, I don't know, 30% reduction in fees or something, I could sell it at that price probably. Yeah, I might take a little bit less profit, but then that's saying my sales go up. But that means I'm then guaranteed, they're getting, obviously customers get the return guarantee through Amazon, not server. I'm not sure how it works. They also get it dispatched definitely next day, as in they're getting it from Amazon rather than like a seller fulfilled Prime. But I would be able to be the same price. So in theory, that, I mean, for me, that sounds a bit more desirable. Not that it necessarily is.
Yeah.
But why? I mean, man, because they don't really, they won't know what we're buying it for. They don't know what the prices we're buying these products for. So they're not going to be like, oh no, we can't ever give it to the FBA because they won't be able to go that low for price, because that wouldn't happen because they don't know what we're, So yeah, I mean, I'm just randomly guessing now, but I'm just trying to brainstorm.
Yeah, I think it's something, it's still new in the UK. It's only been around for a couple of weeks. So I know it's been going in Germany for a really long time. And Amazon have also been doing this themselves for quite a long period of time. My husband, Amazon's best customer, was telling me about it earlier, where he was saying, yeah, I've seen this on Amazon loads, and he's like a really solid, loyal Amazon customer from a buying point of view. And even it's put him off of ordering something because he's like, well, I don't want 5 packs of, Tip-X or whatever.
I'm just being annoying now. Order 3, return 2.
Oh, ooh. I'll tell you what, that mess up the beta program. Yeah, here we go, guys. Right, everyone order from it and return. Because I think if you're seller fulfilled Prime, I think you have to, abide by the same rules as Prime, so you would have to accept back the returns.
That's what I would do. Just because I'd be like, oh, whatever, I'll buy it now and I'll sort it out later.
Yeah, but I just see it's such a flawed program, and unless I see anything else, and again, you know, genuinely, when I saw this, you know, I'd known about it for a little while, but hadn't seen it too much in action. But then when I looked into it a lot, you know, deeper today, I just saw opportunity there. There's, you know, I never see anything from a negative point of view. Well, you know, that's impossible. I do sometimes see things from a negative point of view. I take all view in, you know, into account. But the way that I see this, and especially the way that I sell on Amazon, this is something, it's actually quite good. So I can see that there could be some good opportunity here for people that want to play the system. You know, not necessarily anything unique. You don't need to add anything, you know, a unique offering. You just need to learn how to read the data and the customer behavior and, you know, interpret how the customer you know, demand is reflected on that particular product and create your own opportunity for that. Then definitely you're going to be able to pick up some sales, because we can see this is a turn off for customers. And I would be very surprised, famous last words, 6 months time we'll be sat here going, oh yeah, do you remember when you said that? But I would be very surprised if, as it exists at the moment, is the form that it will end up as. It's in beta for a reason. They're testing it.
No, and also thinking about it, it's diluting away from Prime as such, isn't it?
It is. Like,
and that's the opposite of what they want to do. That's not their business. Like, they're looking to get subscriptions. Like, that's a massive income stream because it's predictable.
Well, seller fulfilled Prime would qualify for that, I would have thought.
So they would have to be Prime to have seller fulfilled Prime, to be able to buy for seller fulfilled Prime. Yes,
the only option is Johnny or anyone else that might have seen it. I'm not sure. The ones that I've seen are seller fulfilled Prime. So is it only seller fulfilled Prime, or has anyone seen anyone on the beta that is offering this through merchant fulfilled? Not sure. So it'd be interesting to get people's thoughts. But, you know, the more it goes on, the more people start to see it, the more we'll talk about it, the more we'll see the changes, the more we'll find out, you know, from the people that are in the program and you know, what's going to be happening. Amazon's always got a reason for doing anything. I can't fathom. I've been told what the reason is for this, but it doesn't make sense. So, you know, it'd be interesting to see how it pans out. And do you know what? Just because something goes into beta, it doesn't mean that they actually roll it out for everyone. There's been things in America that I know that have gone through the beta program, but have never got rolled out, and because it hasn't worked out. So hopefully this will be one of them. Not hopefully if you're on the beta program. Definitely. Johnny says merchant fulfilled wouldn't be an issue, as they wouldn't command the buy box like they do with seller fulfilled Prime. Yeah, absolutely. So that could be, you know, that's what's causing the issue. So seller fulfilled Prime plays as the same rules as FBA, definitely. So we will wait and see. Watch this space. So that's what, you know, we just have to play it. But of course, you know, it's episodes like this where we will keep you updated with everything that is going on with it. Well, hasn't that hour and a half flown by? I promised you, Luke. I was like, yeah, we've an hour. Yeah, sorry. I always say that. I've really got to stop promising times, because I literally break the promise every single time.
Fine, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
I know, but it's all good fun. So hopefully, guys, you have got some information. Some good information from tonight. We've talked about a lot, and we've talked about a lot in detail. So I promise in the Secret Wealth Project, I will do a post relating to the responsible person. I'll also do one on the minimum order quantity at some point over the next week, just to keep people updated with everything that's going on there. But any questions, you know, feel free to let us know in the group. Always happy to help where we can. Luke, thank you so much for your thoughts, for your comments and your expertise tonight. It's always great to have you on here. I'm not sure who's on with me next week. I can't remember. So, but we will be here. Luke won't be. I will be. Same time next week, 7 o'clock on a Tuesday, live streaming through the Never Mind the Buy Box YouTube channel, and also Secret Wealth Project Facebook group. So thanks for spending the evening with us. Have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
See you, everyone. Bye.